Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another vid. I gotta give a shout out to the brother Mike Sowell, Big Mike. He actually posted this video on his channel about the Los Angeles Lakers and the Paul George situation, and I thought I'd go ahead and chime in on this. And while I'm doing that, or before I do that, I should say, I'm going to announce a few changes on my channel. This will be primarily a boxing channel, but I'm also going to cover a wide range of sports as well. I'm going to not only cover the NBA, I'm going to try to cover the NFL as much as I can. MMA, definitely going to give MMA back, put MMA back on my platform, which I should have said I was going to do a while back, but I didn't do that, but I will do that again. And most importantly, what I'm going to do, I'm going to probably do something that's pretty unheard of to most cases. I'm going to cover the WNBA. The reason why I say that, because I'll admit to you guys right now, I'm a WNBA fan, and I watched the sport for years, and I watched it struggle, then, I watch it rebound from certain seasons, whatnot. But it actually has some exciting games, and the female athletes in that organization, they do play hard, and they do play with a lot of courage. They play with a lot of tenacity. They might not be as athletic as the male players on the NBA side of things, but or flashy, I should say. But the fact is, they do play very hard, and they are very skillful players, and they play to win. So the games are very, very close for the most part, given the fact that the whole playoff structure and everything, which are forcing teams to play much harder than they should. So definitely going to start covering the WNBA. I know that it's still within the regular season is about to end. It's about to go into the postseason, with the playoffs. So I'm gonna start covering some of those games here as well. But anyway, I want to go ahead and get into the story here about the Los Angeles Lakers and the Paul George situation. Now, according to this report here, it was reported by Peter Vescey, a longtime columnist for the NBA. Now, or NBA columnist, I should say. He reported here that not Magic Johnson, the Los Angeles Lakers organization has been accused of violating tampering rules pertaining to Paul George. Now the Pacers president's organization have followed the complaint over to the NBA offices, and the NBA has opened up a probe. They've hired an independent law firm to look into the matter by the name of let me see the name of the law firm. The law firm that was hired to look into the situation was what is the name of that law firm? Here it is. The law firm of Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen and Katz. Now, basically, the tampering rules is as follows. Yes. Well, before I get into that, the center of the attention here is Lakers president and basketball operations is Magic Johnson. He's the center of this probe here. Now, according to the tampering rules, anti-tampering rules, you're forbidden as an NBA executive to talk to a player to discuss an agreement or a lucrative agreement while they're still under contract with another team with the current team that they're playing for. Now, Paul George, the guy here that we're talking about in this situation, he's the guard, small shooting guard forward for the Indiana Pacers. He's a 4-time All-Star. He's averaged, he has a career average over 22 points a game, whatnot. Now, Paul George has made it clear with the Pacers organization last season that he was going to opt out of his contract. He will not play for them. He will not renew his term with them. He was going to go back home where he's from. He's from LA, by the way, where I'm at. He's from LA. He wanted to go back home and play for the Lakers. That's what he stated previously. That's what he was going to do. But instead, the Pacers, the organization, when he opted out, they decided to go ahead and trade him. They opt out of his contract in 2018 contract. So he opts out. So they decided to trade him to the Oklahoma City Thunder, for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. Now, now the thing is that it is kind of strange. The thing is, if the Oklahoma City Thunder signs him to a non, restricted contract, that means he could still be a free agent the following year. I believe that's what this whole situation is. Okay, now somebody help me out with that. So, anyhow, the deal, if he signed with the Lakers, could be a 4-year deal worth $130 million. Okay, so basically, if the tampering allegations are found to be true, then the NBA could sanction the Lakers for. They can penalize them very, very hefty. They could lose 5 first-round draft picks, whatnot. They can lose. Well, they actually have to give them to the Pacers, obviously. The executives, the parties who are involved, like Magic Johnson, for example, if it is found to be the fact that he was indeed involved in the situation, then he could be suspended. Or then Paul George could be forbidden to sign on to that team. Just like similar how the Joe Smith situation was handled. Not Joe Smith Jr. I'm not talking about boxing, y'all. I'm talking about basketball. Joe Smith, the guy who came from Maryland, who was the number 1 pick back in 1995, who, many would consider a bust, which is true to some degree. He was a bust. I mean, he had a decent career, but it was not a great career that people hoped that he would have. But anyway, similar situation with the Minnesota Timberwolves with Joe Smith, where the parties involved, they were actually making it under the deal table, I believe, with Joe Smith, and people were involved, including Kevin McHale and other team executives. They were suspended for a whole year. The Timberwolves lost several first-round draft picks, and they had to pay a hefty fine. So, could be the similar situation here, okay, if the Lakers are found guilty here. Now, tampering is very, very difficult to deal with, because let me tell you something. I seen that interview today with Peter Vescey, who broke the story, by the way, with Colin Cowherd. Okay, Colin Cowherd brought up an interesting and good point. He said, "Look, he pretty much don't believe in this tampering stuff, because you got players from another team, like, for example, Draymond Green, who actually advocated for Kevin Durant to sign with the Golden State Warriors right before his contract was up with the damn Oklahoma City Thunder." Okay, when the free agent market opens up on July 1st, this is the argument here, is that you cannot talk to a player if they're not on the free agency market on July 1st of that year. Okay, the thing is that, well, Colin Cowherd said, look, players, on the day that the free agent market starts to open, 9 deals are signed on that same day. So I don't understand this whole tampering thing. Okay, you got players from various organizations talk to other fraternize players all the time, and they're discussing ways to get that player to come over to sign to that team they're playing for. It happens all the time. And Peter Vescey, the guy who's pretty bitter about the situation. I'll get to Peter Vescey in a second, because I really don't like this guy. Peter Vescey said, well, look, the difference is that there's no rule in the CBA, which is the collective bargaining agreement, is that there's no rules that doesn't forbid players to talk to other players in a situation like that. However, there is a rule where executives from teams are not allowed to talk to players while they're under contract before they enter the free agent market. That's tampering. They cannot do that as executives. But I guess, like I said, the loophole is that their players who are representatives of that team can actually do that. I mean, look, man, the bottom line is it's very hard to prove tampering. And in fact, the Lakers just came out and made a statement and said, look, they came out and made it clear that we understand the situation, and we are willing to cooperate with the NBA to our full extent, to our ability. Okay, so the Los Angeles Lakers have denied the allegations right away. They said they have nothing to hide. But again, that doesn't mean anything. We have to wait until the legal law firm who's hired to probe the matter, they have to come up with their findings. Okay, now, yeah, we'll wait until, as the story does develop. Okay, now, Peter Vescey. Let me get on to Peter Vescey for a second. Okay, those don't know who Peter Vescey is. Peter Vescey is a guy who's wrote for the NBA and the ABA. Well, he wrote about the ABA and the ABA in the NBA, for a very long time. It spanned over 40 years. Okay, he's been a columnist for over 40 years. All right. He's a New Yorker. He has that New York accent, whatnot. He's from Brooklyn. But the fact is that Peter Vescey has been a guy who's been a very dark horse in a way. This is a guy who doesn't hold anything back. He likes to ask you tough questions, and he does it in a demeanor that seems to be very condescending. I don't mind a columnist or a reporter or a writer to ask tough questions, but obviously you just don't want to do it in a very condescending way. For example, I did not like the way he approached Karl Malone after the fact that the Utah Jazz had lost the 1997 NBA Finals to the Chicago Bulls, okay? He asked Karl Malone a stupid-ass condescending question by saying, quote, "Karl, did you felt that you let your team down? Did you felt you let your city down for coming up short?" And Karl Malone's like, "Hell no. Why should I feel that way? First of all, the hell with you and anyone else felt that I should play it in differently. Okay, I played hard. I played best of my ability. Karl Malone did average double figures. He averaged 24 points, 12 rebounds in that series. He did play pretty well, but many people, some people felt that he didn't play to the best of his ability, which I think that's bullshit. He played the best he could do, but he was going up against a better team who's very good at defense, a very defensive team, I should say. So, yeah, I didn't like the way he approached Karl Malone after that post game interview. I did not like that at all, and I have to applaud Karl Malone for holding his composure, because it seemed like at one point in that interview that Karl Malone was about to explode, that he was going to go ahead and, punch Peter Vescey in the face or something like that. I don't know, man. It got very heated, but it is what it is. And Peter Vescey is also a guy who took shots at Sean Kemp for having multiple kids. He's taking shots at the Los Angeles Lakers franchise, which could also explain the reasoning why he wrote this damn article, okay? I'll get to that in a second, okay? He never liked the Lakers. He never liked the Bulls. He's always had something condescending to say about the New York Knicks, Sean Kemp, Charles Barkley, and so forth. And Peter Vescey seems like a guy, too. Let me get to this right now. 6 years ago, Magic Johnson put out a tweet on his Twitter saying that Peter Vescey was never very good. He never had charisma. He was never very good on TV, okay? This tweet was 6 years ago. Peter Vescey never responded to that tweet because it seemed like he went under seclusion or something like that, from my understanding. Okay? Now, 6 years later, which was yesterday, by the way, 24 hours ago, Peter Vescey decides to respond to that tweet. All right? And this is what he said, quote. I'm going to go ahead and read this from, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and read this from verbatim. All right, this is what it said. He said here, quote, damn, come on. Bring it up. This is what he had to say. He said clearly, words from someone dumber than a stump. So he directed that towards Magic Johnson, okay? So then 24 hours later, which is today, Peter Vescey decides to break this story. I don't know, man. I don't know. Someone would say, looking at that, is this a personal vendetta that Peter Vescey has towards Magic Johnson? It could be, because in that interview with Colin Cowherd today, he went off on Magic. He went off by saying, I'm going to go ahead and paraphrase what he was saying about Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson is a guy who's gotten away with shit for all these years, okay? He puts a big smile on the face, but he's conniving, he's deceptive as hell, okay? Such and such and such. Pretty much Peter Vescey said, I don't respect the guy, I don't like the guy. Plain and simple, okay? He has said some praiseworthy things about Magic, probably some, but that doesn't mean he fully respects and admires the guy, okay? Now, I will also add that Peter Vescey seems to be very bitter because he's been taken off TV. He has been on TV for many years. His columns have been taken away from other publications like the New York Post and USA Today. And pretty much he's a freelancer now. He's been freelancing, and I noticed that he has a account on Patreon where he's charging, from my understanding, he's charging a fee for anyone to process, anyone to view any of his publications. Okay. But the fact is that, it goes back to the TNT days, in early, late 90s and early 2000s, when Charles Barkley came on board as part of the crew of the TNT team inside the NBA, along with Ernie Johnson and Kenny Smith. You notice that Charles Barkley he completed the chemistry between Kenny Smith and Ernie Johnson, and that left Peter Vescey out, and they had to, they cut his contract, they let him go. And he's been bitter about Charles Barkley after that. And he at one time went on had an interview with Sports Illustrated Now, and he was quoted by saying, "Look, what Donald Sterling said, which is despicable, but guys like Charles Barkley can get away with shit like that." So he took a shot at Charles Barkley, and the fact is, he's a bitter guy. He's angry. To me, he's very vindictive of people that he views as his enemies, in my opinion. Like Mark Cuban. He didn't like the way Mark Cuban was running the Dallas organization when in the early days when Mark Cuban bought the club and turned that team around in late 2001 or something like that. I remember that interview. I think it was on NBC Showtime, and he went off on Mark Cuban, and they had an on-air argument, and Mark Cuban had to put him in his place. All right, and that was one of the rare situations I ever see someone go off on an NBA on NBC interview. Other than the fact it was Peter Vescey that Karl Malone kind of went off on, okay? And during his Hall of Fame induction in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, no one seemed to care about Peter Vescey. I mean, no one seemed to be very congratulatory towards his induction. And from my understanding, I think I've seen the video, but for some reason that video has been taken off now. In that Hall of Fame induction, in the video, when I seen it, there was like a lukewarm applause for Peter Vescey. Many of the people who were standing up on the stage while he was giving his speech wasn't really praiseworthy or congratulatory towards the guy. So he's actually burnt a lot of bridges too, from my understanding. So, again, I think this is, in my personal opinion, I think he's being vindictive. He has a vendetta, and or then again, maybe there is some bit of journalistic integrity that why he published the story. But again, if you put two to two together, it's very, very obvious to me. And the timing of why he put out this article is that tweet that he responded to 6 years later, 24 hours ago. And then 24 hours today, he published the stories about the Lakers franchise being accused of tampering with Paul George. So, yeah, if you ask my take on it, we'll see where this case leads to. It's going to take time to develop. But again, the Los Angeles Lakers said that we will fully cooperate, and yeah, we'll go from there. But that's my take on this whole situation with Peter Vescey and this story they put out. And let me know what your thoughts about this. I'm out.